Hey, all, Branch, and welcome back to our Christmas podcast. I'm Pastor Greg, and we are looking at episode number 8. And I'm excited to have somebody who's lovely and beautiful and my favorite person in the world, which is my wife, Theressa. She's going to be joining us today. Say hi, babe.
Hello.
And we are going to be jumping into a conversation on traditions and family traditions. And we want to share some of our traditions we've done, some that we failed at, some of our thoughts about traditions over the years. And so I invited Theressa to come on out. So you are usually, to be honest, probably the one who drives our traditions in our family. I'm the one who usually has the want for traditions, but you're the one who makes them happen.
Makes it happen.
So for people, like, what have been the different traditions we're currently doing right now that pop into your mind? We can swap back and forth, talk about them. And
I think one of our favorite ones is we go cut down a real Christmas tree at Sandhaven Pines.
Sandpine Havens?
Something like that. It's off of Cahalco.
It's up off Wood Street up off Cahalco.
And we get our beautiful bush.
That's actually one of the traditions that came all the way out of my family. We've been doing that, and you guys just did too.
Yeah, we did too. Yeah, that was definitely...
Cutting down a live tree, there was always something about it. We love going there because they've got the Christmas music going, and when it wasn't COVID, they had popcorn and candy canes, and just something about, like, this year my boys actually chopped it all down themselves.
Yeah, they
it was
did.
So cool.
They're so good.
So that's been one of those fun little traditions. What's a couple others that we do?
And we always have done Operation Christmas Child, and so our children... We go to the dollar store for some of it, not all of it, but we go and they get to pick out the items for the kids. And some years I've had the kids write letters to, so Operation Christmas Child is where you pack a box full of gifts and then you send it over to, out to a different country to a child that is in need or maybe wouldn't get any gifts that Christmas.
And they don't know the gospel. They even get a chance to hear the gospel,
And they get to hear the gospel,
So we've done a couple of those things. One of the fun things that we landed on a few years ago was going to Logan's Candy Canes.
That's probably one of my favorite. It's so simple. It's is it Ontario?
I believe it's Ontario, yeah.
And it's Logan's Candy Shop. The owners are Christian, and they tell the story.
Of the candy cane. Well, they don't. They actually make candy cane, not a candy cane.
They make a huge
amount of candy canes.
Yeah, and it's warm. It's like warm when they hand it to you because you get a sample, and it tastes amazing. And it's just so fun to stand outside of the glass and watch him make it.
And they're a Christian family, and they actually have tracks that attach the gospel to the candy canes. I'm actually going to tell the candy cane story from Logan's.
Cool.
Later in this podcast.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
It's super neat. And so we love doing that one. And we'll often attach to that some Christmas tree or Christmas light.
Yes.
And we have some of our, like, we've done the traditional ones, right? Where you go out and find the big Christmas light displays.
We went to Rancho Cucamonga, and there's like a huge...
But you were saying earlier, like, our favorites.
One of the things I've learned is that, well, sometimes when you plan and you find a spot that have amazing Christmas lights and you want to go see them and you figure it out and it works and you go see them and they're amazing, that can be really fun. But I think for me, my favorite way to go see lights right now is just hopping in the car and searching for them and, like, just going through the neighborhoods. And sometimes you don't see really great ones, but... Last year, I think it was last year.
2 years ago,
maybe. 2 years ago, we did that, and all of our kids were in horrible moods. They were like, it was a horrible night, and I was just like, I'm making cocoa. So we made cocoa, we jumped in the car, and we ended up in, was it Elsinore? Or
it was Menifee.
And we found the most amazing house ever.
Like dancing lights and crazy stuff, that it was just the kids were laughing. Yeah, it changes everybody.
It was fun.
That kind of leads me more as we'll share some of the other things, but it kind of leads to that point that I think one of the things when we come to traditions that I was thinking about was we have both found that traditions never wind up being, at least for me, I don't know for you, but what I think they will be in my head. I think I have this grandiose vision.
Yeah, we're both a little idealistic.
Yeah. And so how should we view traditions, do you think? I mean, are they supposed to be these ideal things? Are we supposed to just realize they're going to be rotten sometimes? Or how?
Well, I think sometimes we just try to squeeze too much in and we are too busy to make them as good as they could be. But then also sometimes our expectations are just a little bit too high. And so we're not able to just enjoy, like, okay, it doesn't have to be this idyllic experience, but guess what? We're all together and we're all decorating the Christmas tree. Like, decorating the Christmas tree is one of those struggles for me. I always try to plan out our night where, okay, we're decorating the Christmas tree. The kids are going to help. And, we're going to have a Christmas movie on in the background. And it's going to be fun and slow. And, I think maybe once or twice that's happened. The majority of the time, something happens that, impacts the decorating, and it's kind of chaotic, and they only help for a little bit, and then
they don't really want to, and they're whining and complaining. And we have 4 kids, so and they can right now they're spanning from 16 all the way down to 10, and so
so they're in very different stages.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to do traditions with different stages because our youngest loves decorating, and he loves being a part of the Christmas traditions. And the oldest are in a different space. They want to talk about things, and they want to engage in a deeper way with Christmas than I've ever seen before. I think that's what's really been fascinating. And so traditions for us are even shifting again. So we do a lot of cool stuff. Are there any other ones that come to your mind?
So when the kids were younger, I was a lot better at doing Advent. So we would, it started off, I think, the traditional, I had a little house that every year I'd put candy in it, and the kids would, and they loved, they still talk about it. They loved getting candy every day of December. But because I'm crazy, I stopped that because I couldn't handle getting my kids candy every day, even though they probably still eat candy every day. But anyways. But I found my favorite Advent that I found was a homemade one that I did, and it's very simple. And you just take wrapping paper, and you have 25 days, obviously, and you just pick somebody or some way to serve each day. But they're simple things. They're some of them take you 5 minutes. Some of them, they're not like this big ordeal. And so for me, what I found is that's the best way each day to focus on the Lord in something small, not in this huge elaborate plan, but just, okay, how can you serve one of your siblings today? Let's go bless one of our neighbors today.
Yeah, I think that, and that's what's interesting, because I think for a lot of Christians, we have the traditions of Christmas, but there are secular traditions, and then there are Christian traditions, and then there's some ways that we could possibly reclaim some of those traditions that we've done. I know a lot of people do Elf on the Shelf, right? I know a lot of people love doing this, and then I love Stephanie and our children. She's done this JD, and JD.
And we're just gonna confess, we have never been good at it.
We've never been successful at it.
We did it once or twice, and that's it.
Our tooth fairy actually has never been successful either, so it's not likely that JD's.
I couldn't make it work, but I think that's one of the big things I want to say is that there's so many options, there's so many things you can do, and you can get caught up in this frenzy of making everything happen that's magical or something weird like that. And I think for me, it's really just picking a couple of things and doing it well, and not allowing other people's traditions to make you feel like FOMO or feel like you're missing out of something, but literally just whatever you do, do it well and focus on those things and not feel like you have to do everything.
Yeah, I think it's okay to know that you're going to probably go through a phase if you're a younger family where you're going to have FOMO and try all kinds of crazy stuff, and you're going to overwhelm yourself one year. And we did that. We've tried, we tried the JD, and we tried to do all these different things, and we tried all these traditions plus other ones. And we have a crazy Christmas season being as a pastor's family. Not to mention my family continued to hold on to all of their traditions,
which is crazy because now there's none.
I know, now it's all gone. And we used to have at the beginning of our marriage,
7
different Christmas parties in the year, and so it's changed dramatically. But I think that's one of those interesting things about traditions that's hard, is because when you start, my mom every year, and my mom's been gone now for over 10 years, and she would put on our piano, our baby grand, she would close the lid, and she would build a town with all of these special little houses. Actually have her church in my office, and it's my big reminder of her in there every day, and I love it. And but she would she would go elaborate on this thing. Now my sisters have tried and stuff. It's just you can't keep it up because it was my mom's art piece. It was her favorite tradition. And there was this piece in me that was like, I want that tradition in my family, but it doesn't fit my family. And I think we all go through this, all that to say, we all go through this struggle to bring all of our family traditions in, and then we see our friends and we go like, oh, that's a great tradition. Let's add there. Let's do cookies and let's do cocoa and let's do this and this and this. And like you said,
kind of crazy.
You will go crazy. Yeah. So what do you think, in your mind, now you've done it for a bunch of years, a good pace on traditions is?
I think it's going to be different for every family. I really do. I think
safe
that
answer. No, just
no,
kidding.
it's the true answer. You have to really think through like who you guys are and who your kids are and how much you can handle. And I think that, when my kids were younger, I'm just going to be honest, I was terrible at traditions because I had 4 kids and a husband that was a pastor. Our life was crazy always, and I liked things in order, and so I worked my butt off just to maintain normal for us. So adding on top of it crazy traditions and things, I literally overwhelmed me. And so there was a girl in my life that I followed on, I think she wrote a blog or something, and she would challenge me because she was complete opposite of me, right? Like tradition insanity in her house, right? But it challenged me to be like, okay, I can do more. I can do some. And so it kind of got me going of like, okay, we're going to do some things. And so we started going to see Christmas lights, and we started, doing certain things and planning it so that it happened,
Yeah, that was like one of my thoughts is like, what's the difference between, because a tradition has to be planned. I think that's important to know. I was listening to some management podcasts yesterday, and one of their big things about their one-on-ones, and I know this has nothing to do with Christmas, but it fits here, is that you had to schedule the one-on-one because it created the rhythm that you were looking for with that person. Now, if it got moved by something more superior. But the point here is you have to plan the tradition, and it could get moved, but at least it has a place. And then it means it will have a pride of place. It will happen more likely than not if it's in a calendar. And so it's very important to sit down and plan those traditional days out.
And every day, every year, every Christmas season, I write down the things that I want to do with my kids. And I just try to kind of put a placeholder of like, where could we possibly do this? And the things, and I decide on the ones that are deal breaker. Like, we are going to do this year, and then the other ones kind of go on. Like, one year I had it in my mind, Addie had wanted to go ice skating, and she had never been. And down in downtown Riverside, they had an ice skating rink. And so I put that on my list, and we only did it 1 year, but I mean, it was like, we are doing this together. So her and me and my mom went ice skating down in downtown, and it was so fun and magical. And like, I just got it into my head, like, we are doing this year.
And so that's the difference between like a tradition and a spontaneous tradition, right? So
it wasn't a tradition, It was just something I wanted to do.
But sometimes those things become the magical memories. I think that's the traditions are powerful for their longevity, but they give birth to those magical moments and the memories that can occur. And
what are some? Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, what are some of the more meaningful traditions that we have?
So our meaningful traditions, I think our biggest one is church on Christmas Eve. Obviously, we're there, but we would go even if I wasn't preaching or anything. Yeah. My wife, you work really hard to get the kids ready, and they don't always want to go, and it's not always great in their minds, and what I mean by like the tradition itself. But we do that, and then I think making sure we're seeing family has always been a meaningful tradition to me. And lastly is the one we got from your family, which is on every Christmas morning. Yeah,
we read the Christmas story. So we have one of, now that our kids can all read, we pick a kid and they read the story before we open up gifts.
And it gives us just a chance to refocus on Jesus. I think we've stolen, I like JD because when you do it, it has, it's focused on Jesus. Yeah. But it's fun, and I love that kind of stuff. But stockings and those kind of things are great. But
I think, this is meaningful, but it's still about gifts, but I love it. So when my kids were little, we would take them to the dollar store, and we actually made all of them buy each person in our family a gift, but it was at the dollar store. So that way we were able to, I think I spent maybe $25 total, but all my kids were able to get everyone a gift. And so just kind of instilling that habit in them of them picking out a gift for everyone in the family. And now they have their own money, sort of. I mean, it's their allowance, but they're using their money and they're getting each other gifts. Some, more naturally are generous than others. And, so it's a work in progress. But I loved that idea of the dollar store because it's such a simple thing. Even if you don't have a ton of money, you can do that with your kids.
I think another thing that we can see in these meaningful traditions is the ones that have been most meaningful we've held on to.
Yeah.
That's
beef jerky. That's my favorite.
Oh, yeah, but that's the most meaningful one I can think of. So.
Making homemade beef jerky. Sorry.
But like that Christmas story we have done, and it's almost like I fight to do it. Even when I had to preach on Christmas morning, we fought to get them up and do that one thing. And because there is a sense for us, we want Jesus to be that centerpiece. No matter how much all the other things grab hold of it, is still about Jesus and about his birth. But one of the big things about traditions is they change. Like we've now, like we said, we started with just me and you for a year. And then we wound up with all the way to the kids. Now they're all older and we're starting we've been in teenage world now. We've got 2 teenagers, almost 3.
Have 3. Oh my goodness.
And how have we seen those traditions adjust in your mind? I think one of the things we see is that they're getting more meaningful. Like I can see which traditions mean something to them now.
Yes.
Right?
Well, like I never knew how much the Advent candy calendar meant to them until the last couple years. They've been talking about it because I got rid of it. And they long for it. And I'm like, wow, I never knew
that little thing was
the impression that it made on their little hearts, like every day. Because I didn't give them a lot of candy back then, so it was probably really special. And I am a Scrooge and took it away.
Well, no, one of the funny things is like, for one of the other management things is the kids are different, right? So Andrew doesn't experience the same kinds of traditions Adeline and Nathaniel had in some cases. And like, for example, I think it's hilarious that when Adeline and Nathaniel were little, we would probably watch the Muppet Christmas Carol every year.
Well, I think the Branchettes bought it for us.
Yeah. But now they did. And then as Andrew, it's his favorite movie and Nate can't stand it. And so now we don't watch as much.
Nate threw it away like twice. And then I made him rebuy it because he hates it so much. But I told him the other kids like it. But
that's that weird thing about traditions, right? You think they're going to be something you do and then somebody changes. And when you got 6 of us, man.
All this interaction.
It changes all the time. And I guess my point is that enjoy the traditions, but you've got to remember the purpose of a tradition is for the sake, you've got to have a purpose behind them. And I believe the purpose of the tradition is to drive Christ into your family and to bring your family together, to bring a cohesion to your family so that this time period, in a way, like I like how some people put it, makes your kids want to come home. They may not come home, but in their hearts, they long for it and long to come home. I believe that adds a sense of heaven into your life. Because the longing to come home is the deepest longing for every human being, and that's the longing to go to heaven. And we'll talk on that in the 4th sermon of the series we're doing, but it is a deep longing, and that's what I think is the beauty of a tradition, is it helps to birth heaven in the hearts of kids. And when it's done well, there is a sense of, I just want to go home and be with family. What better definition is there than that of heaven? And so I love traditions. I think they've really been hard for us, but they've been good for us. We've found that rhythm. And if you're wrestling with rhythm, if you're wrestling with these kinds of things, what would you encourage somebody with?
Well, there's 2 different sides. So if you're struggling you have little kids and you're struggling to get anything done, right? Because just taking care of little kids is a lot of work and it can take everything out of you. My suggestion for you is just to pick a couple really meaningful traditions and do it well and not to try to do everything. And don't feel like your kids are gonna they're gonna miss out because we didn't do everything that all these other people are doing. Like just do it well and be there, be present with your kids and enjoy just their enjoyment of the season, because it's so magical for kids. And so
Early on, start earlier with your traditions
start
too,
early,
right?
but be there, be present, and be. And then there is an Advent that I purchased that I actually do like. I haven't been able to make it fully happen, but I've done it a little bit here and there. It's called Slow and Sacred Advent by Jennifer Naraki. And it's a Christian thing, and literally just tries to bring in like Christian meditation to the children. Like they have verses to meditate on and copy. Anyways, you can look at that. But I would just pick a couple things, try not to do everything, but just do a couple things. I think that's my best advice, is to not overwhelm yourself.
And know yourself. If you are a disciplined person and you can handle an every single day kind of tradition,
Right.
Do that. That's awesome. Some of us, my wife and I included, are not that kind of people, and some of our schedules don't enable us to do that in this very busy world. But we just want to encourage you to have some traditions, to engage in those traditions, and to enjoy them. We have enjoyed them, and we just wanted to share some of this with you and encourage you forward this season. And so thank you for joining us. And if you've got questions or you've got thoughts, we would love to hear from you. You can send us some emails or information at info@obcc.church, and we'd love to hear from you. If you've enjoyed this particular podcast or the other ones, please go ahead and share them on your Facebook page, subscribe to the podcast, or join us on the YouTube. It's being posted there as well. And just be a part of all of this fun this season as we're doing these podcasts. We're just glad you're listening. We're thanking you for being a part. And thanks for being with us, Tress.
It was nice. Thanks.
We will see you guys tomorrow.